Now, Mark Brennan on CFAX 1070.
Mark is away today. I'm Terry Moore in the slot. We'll be with you until 6 o'clock tonight. Question for you that we asked just before we took our short break there. Do your kids understand money? More importantly, do you? Do you teach your kids about money? Or do they just roll their eyes and look like a deer in headlights and say, oh, come on, Mom, come on, Dad, I don't want to talk about that. Listen, let's talk about this because Gary Rabbior is in the studio. He's the president of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, known as CFEE, in Victoria. And he's going to be talking to us right now about why this is a very important thing because, by the way, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Thank you, Terry.
I got to tell you that when I was going to school, high school and so on, they never said a thing in school. I went to school in Alberta, and they said, this is what you get in math. That's what you're going to do. But nobody ever talked about running a home, running a business, or how you handle money. It just wasn't there. When did we start to get interested in saying it's time that you teach your kids about how to handle their finances?
Yeah, and it wouldn't matter whether you're in Alberta or anyplace else because you probably wouldn't have had it either.
No.
We've been working at this for some time. We've been making slow progress along the way, but it really took a turn back at the time of the financial crisis in 2008.
Right.
I think at that particular time, differently than times in the past, almost everyone was affected by it. You know, in past times, certain people were hurt by economic downturns or whatever. Here, everybody felt it, and everybody realized, gee, the world of money is actually becoming more pervasive in our life, more complex in terms of how we have to manage it, and more significant in terms of the impact that we might face with some of these challenges and changes that are going on.
Let alone cryptocurrency, which is crazy.
You got it. And I think increasingly, you know, parents, teachers, educators, all of a sudden, I think assigned a higher priority to the fact that the way the world is going now, money used to be quite simple. You had a checking account, a savings account, you moved it from one to another, and you paid your bills.
Yeah, sure.
Infinitely more complex now, and how you manage your money, and also the impact of others on trying to influence the decisions you make about your money has become incredibly profound. And so that's a thing we have to prepare our kids for too.
You said that you're getting somewhere, but it's a very slow process. Why?
Well, basically, you know, historically, and I think in education it's interesting because I think there's a need for, dare I say it, an almost revolution in learning because of the fact that the world has become so different and is changing so rapidly that, you know, my father-in-law who passed away recently looked at his report card from the 30s, and the same courses were being taught to my kids as he took in the 30s with the exception of Latin.
Reading, writing, arithmetic. Yeah.
And what we're increasingly recognizing is that rather than necessarily teaching the content, we need to use content as the pathway to competencies and capabilities that our kids need in the world today. And that's increasingly brought attention to financial education too, because whenever you talk about, gee, what would we like our kids to have in terms of competency and a capability when they leave school? Making good decisions about money and managing their money effectively is a no-brainer.
But just because you may know numbers and because you can add, subtract, and multiply does not necessarily mean that you're going to know how to handle money, because I know some chartered accountants who are pretty smart as chartered accountants, but their personal financial situation sometimes is a disaster.
That's right. And I mean, I should mention that one of the ways we're trying to bring about changes with our Talk with Our Kids About Money Day program, which is actually April 18th. And if we have a website, talkwithourkidsaboutmoney.com, with resources for parents and for teachers. And if you go there, you'll find that it's more about behavior and attitudes and how you deal with money than it is the nuts and bolts of numbers. For example, I often get asked, what is the most important thing that I would recommend we teach our kids about money? And it often surprises people because the number one thing I advocate is trade-offs. That every decision you make in life is going to entail a trade-off, and every decision you make with your money involves a trade-off of something today or in the future. And if you pause and think about what you're trading off, it really, and all the research shows, helps you to make better financial decisions.
So as parents, have we made a mistake by not instilling in our kids to respect money and to understand that it doesn't grow on trees, and you just don't always pick up the phone and say, hey Dad, hey Mom, can you give me $400 because I can't make the rent this week at my apartment block or at my university or whatever? Because there seems to be an attitude amongst a lot of young people who want to move home or whatever, that there's an entitlement when it comes to money and they don't have to worry about it.
It's true. There's been a change over time that, and government officials we talk to as well have recognized that the change for young people is that in the old days, we used to know you sort of paid your dues. You had to wait 15 or 20 years to live like mom and dad. Yeah. Increasingly, there's a perception.
And get a job.
And increasingly, there's a perception that life is how you live it. And when you leave home, you live the same way. And as a result, young people are very vulnerable to getting into a lot of debt, trying to maintain the lifestyle that they lived with mom and dad at home. And I think in many respects, one of the most essential things we have to get across to young people is that there are going to be so many people trying to stretch you beyond what is reasonable in your own mind that puts people in distress, to stay in control and set your own limits, not those that are going to be set by others, because you're going to be offered so many things on credit and loans and whatever that significantly exceed your comfort level. And if you go there, you're going to pay the stress price for having done so.
Give me an idea within school systems today that you have talked to. Where do we have a reasonably good educational program that teaches a little bit about your personal money?
Well, here in British Columbia, they're going through an entire curriculum review, and they've integrated explicit financial literacy concepts into some areas, particularly in the mathematics, which is good. But they're also broadening it because part of the thrust of the new curriculum in British Columbia, which I heartily applaud, is trying to target what is sort of the citizen, the capabilities, the competencies of kids, and how we use the content of our courses to achieve those outcomes. And they are recognizing that financial education and literacy is part of what we're trying to achieve in that end goal. And so therefore they're integrating it into various areas. Some of the provinces across the country are actually developing specific courses in financial literacy, and in some cases they're looking to make them compulsory as a recognition of the priority.
What grades do they start in?
Well, we actually start in our program with Talk with Our Kids About Money down at age 5, especially for parents.
Yeah.
And we try to make it a very natural thing for parents through movies you can watch, books you can read, the trips you could take. Recognizing the relationship between a parent and a child is different than a student and a teacher. So you don't want to sit the kid at the dining room table and say, we're about to learn about money. But instead, you can create scenarios in which there's a natural curiosity that's aroused in the child that you can begin that discussion. And then in schools, they tend to be integrating it throughout, but they're focusing particularly at grades 9 and grade 10 to start some of the more explicit instruction related to money, and in some cases units or modules or even half-credit courses.
Is there any evidence to support the fact that if they take these courses and they learn more about handling money, understanding what their mom and dads are going through and how they can survive with their allowances or whatever, or the small jobs that they may get while they're going to school, that they are far more successful than people who just willy-nilly go out and spend on something?
Yeah, we actually work internationally with the OECD and a number of other organizations around the world, and there's been research done that does in fact show that the more financially literate or capable a person becomes in terms of their knowledge and skills in handling money, the better off they tend to become. The other thing that's being an interesting phenomenon worldwide is the correlation that's being recognized between financial well-being and overall health and well-being. And that people are seeing that people who lose control of their finances often end up in situations that manifest themselves in life in affecting your work, affecting your health, affecting nutrition, affecting relationships. And so in some cases, when we're educating kids to be effective in managing their money, it's not just for their financial well-being. It's in fact setting the stage for a healthy life and being able to formulate a life as a household that actually you feel good about and not stressed.
All right, stand by. We're talking to Gary Rabbior. He's the president of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. All right, let's try this. Let's open the phone lines. I want to find out from you whether you have sat down either with your parents as a youngster or you're sitting down with your kids and teaching them about household finances and about money, and whether it is a difficult process for you and the things that you need to know about it. So how many of you have actually been able to do something about teaching your kids something about the world of finance when it comes to your home and spending the money, buying the groceries, doing all that sort of thing, and the kind of results that you've had? Our telephone number is 386-1161, star 1070 cell. You can email us, talk@cfax1070.com. I'm Terry Moore, sitting in for Mark Brenny. Back with you after this. Mark Brenny is away. I'm Terry Moore, sitting in the slot for Mark. Hopefully he'll be back with you tomorrow. Gary Rabbior is the president of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. He is in town from Toronto to talk about bringing education in the world of finance to schools across this country. He said it's a bit of a slow slug, but they're trying to do it and get what they possibly can. I want to find out from you as a listener as to whether you have taught your kids about money, or did your parents teach you anything about money. I'm not talking about high finance here, kids. I'm not talking about the stock stock market. That may happen later, but we're talking about so they understand the kind of things that all parents and families are up against when it comes to budgeting for groceries and for education and all the other things that go along with that. So get on the line at 386-1161, star 1070 cell, and let's get some input from you and see what you have to say about it. Let's get a call up. Let's get Dave on. Dave, you're on CFAX 1070. Go ahead.
Hi, Terry.
Hi.
I have 4 kids, 3
Yes.
step-kids. 2 are living out of home. They're doing not too bad.
Yeah.
The youngest one at 21, he's still lost. He hasn't figured out what he's doing.
Yeah.
But my 9-year-old that lives with me, she's collecting bottles. I've got her doing that, and she can spend half and save half. So that little blighter's got over $1,500 that she's collected in the last year and a half.
Fantastic.
And-
So listen, what did your parents say to you about money when you were being raised?
Nothing really, except that I watched my mother do her monthly books, and she would sit there until she figured out exactly where she spent every nickel.
Yeah.
If she was out by 10 cents, she spent hours trying to find out where that dime went.
Does your 9-year-old child know enough to look at the balance that she has in the bank, and can she write checks on it?
I haven't given her checks and whatnot. She has cash at home that she can spend.
Okay, but
the other stuff is in ES and our registered education service thing.
Okay, does she understand that?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
And she was just at the dentist the other day, and she has 2 cavities, and she just saw the proposed bill for getting her cavities fixed.
That's a bit of a shock.
Of $468.
Oh yeah, and you're going to take it out of her bank account too, aren't you?
Oh no. that comes out of Daddy, but everybody gives her candy and all that stuff, and I just keep telling them, well, I'm going to give you the dental bill.
Exactly. Okay, so listen, a quick question before I let you go here. In school, what did you learn about it when you were in school?
Nothing really, except what I watched from my parents and stuff. My dad was Navy, and he didn't make a lot of money. My mom was the one that did all the finances and stuff, but she worked in, she did payroll at Island Farm Savings. She worked as cashier and stuff like that. So she was the accountant type.
Do you have any questions for our guest, for Gary Rabbior, and the things that you'd like to know about future education for your daughter?
Well, if they're going to put it in school, that would be great. That would be fantastic.
And I'd just like to share a word with Dave because he makes a great point, and that is that parents might not know it, but they're teaching their kids about money anyway. Kids are watching what you do.
Yeah.
And you might as well take the time to do it effectively than just let them pick up what they pick up along the way. Like Dave recalls most particularly what he observed in his parents and their behavior. Better to do it explicitly, get into those discussions with your kid at a young age. And then later on, I bet you if there's a problem that they have with a mortgage or whatever, Dave will be there because they'll be talking to Dave about what that mortgage will be.
How often have you said to your kids, even the ones that are out of the house now, including your 9-year-old daughter, when they say like on a Friday night or whatever, gee, let's order in a pizza or let's go out somewhere to a restaurant, and you said, not this week because we can't afford it?
Quite often.
Okay.
I work on that.
Yeah,
My wife was the type that if she had money in her hand, she spent it.
Yeah.
So my daughter knows that.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for the call. Good call.
Okay, thank you.
You take care. Let me get another one in here. Let's get Fraser. Fraser, go ahead, please. You're on CFAX 1070.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I only just started listening, so I don't know how much you guys have already discussed, but I'm definitely fully in favor of having more practical, personal finance type education in our schools and in our public education system. Something that's practical and that people can actually use, but they don't necessarily get exposure, and certainly not necessarily exposure to good habits at home around how to manage your personal finances, how to budget.
Yeah.
Even something like an overview of our income tax system in Canada. Kids leave school and don't really have that. And this is just something that I fully support.
Give me an idea about the kind of education you had about finances when you were a child.
When I was a child, when I was a child, I had good behaviors that I could model from my parents.
Yeah.
But in school, I've always gravitated toward the finance side of things, so I ended up taking courses that were available in finance and accounting. Even those didn't focus on, practical day-to-day type of behaviors, though, I pursued a career in accounting, which is why I'm more passionate on the subject.
Yep.
But it is something that I think that really everyone should get some exposure to.
Let me ask you about the whole question about what we were dealing with here about the entitlement, where a lot of parents will tell us that their kids just don't understand that we can't afford everything that they may want, but their children don't understand that because they've always had what they wanted whenever they've asked for it.
Well, that's one I haven't had to grapple with to any great extent because my children are too young.
Let's get a reaction here. Let's get a reaction from Mr. Rabbior on that. What's the story?
Basically, when we talk with parents about money, the first thing and most important thing we talk about is trying to develop a sense of self-efficacy in your child. That is, help them believe that they can set a goal and accomplish it. If they can do that, then when they come to making decisions, rather than wanting, let's put a target on something they would like to get.
Yes.
Then they have to develop a plan on how to get it. Then they'll make the trade-offs. Then they'll understand that I have to give up this because I'm aiming for that. And in the process, they learn about the kinds of things they trade off as they reach towards a goal. Then if they achieve it, they get this great feeling that I actually did it. It motivates them to be goal-oriented. And then you don't have to bother so much about teaching them to plan and budget because they will plan and budget. They will set a plan for what they want to get. They'll budget for how they're going to get there. They'll more likely to make the trade-offs in the decisions they have to make to achieve what they're trying to get to.
Fraser, let's say that you're in a situation, you're an accountant, okay? How many children do you have?
I have two.
Okay, how old are they?
They're really young. They're 2 and like 8 months.
Okay, so at what point do you think that a parent should say to their child, okay, look at kids, we've got $700 a month now for groceries and for entertainment. Here's what we're going to do. The $700 is in your hands, and we're going to go out and go shopping today, and you tell us how much we can spend and what we can buy, and I want you to keep a balance of this for a whole month to see where we're at the end of the month, and if there's any money left over, we're going to put it into your account.
Well, Terry, I like the idea, but it's very difficult for me to be in a position to say what the right age is because that's not a trail that I've blazed yet.
Right.
It's hard for me to give advice to other parents when I haven't got there myself. But I think that you have to have children that at least are old enough to have an appreciation for, that things cost money, for what money means, that it is not a limitless resource that you can just dip into your bank account for.
Well, Gary Rabbior just told us on the program today, he said that they're teaching it some finances to kids as young as 5, but you're all for getting this into the schools.
I am all for it, yes.
All right, listen, I appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us here on CFAX 1070.
Thanks.
All right, and good luck with your young family. Let's hope they don't phone you back at 22 and say, Dad, can I come home? All right, we'll leave it on that note. Where do we go from here? What are you going to be doing on April the 18th?
On April the 18th is Talk with Our Kids About Money Day. It's a simple way of getting the conversation started, both in school and at home.
Yeah.
We didn't make a big ask. Don't give us a course. Don't give us a credit. Give us one day. And so on the website, there are lesson plans for teachers in all subject areas, science, math, social studies, to teach a lesson related to their curriculum, but on a topic about money. And as it's happened, and it's our 6th year now, we had 6,000 schools across Canada last year register. We estimate about 500,000 kids participated. And a lot of schools now are running what we call money fairs, like a science fair, where pairs of kids pick a topic of interest to them about money, do some research, develop a creative display, and then the class sets it up in the school and invites parents and other teachers in to talk with the kids about what they've learned about money. And what we've found is that it's a catalyst for change. Once they see how interested the kids are, once they realize how easy it is for the kids to learn and that it's not rocket science to teach, it just grows and grows. And so it's been if people are interested, parents are interested, the talkwithOurKidsAboutMoney.com website has all sorts of resources for parents. We thank Scotiabank because they're our partner that makes it all free.
Sure.
And it's there ready for the taking for teachers and parents.
I think it's a great idea. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in and joining us here today on CFAX 1070. Talking to Gary Rabbior. He's the president of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, or CFEE. That's CFEE. What's the website again?
TalkWithOurKidsAboutMoney.com.
TalkToOurKidsAboutMoney.com.